Hey, it's Mazzy, and welcome to Whack-A-Mole number 124. That means I've done 123 of these, if you do the math correctly. That's where I randomly pick 5 records. Sometimes there are variations with guests, and I shake it up occasionally. I go in the compact disc room, and I do that, the office music room. I want to start out before I pick my 5 records. This is kind of a tangent because a couple people suggested I do a whack-a-mole with my Beatles book collection. I collect Beatles books. If you have been following me for a while, you'll see my collection. I don't think I can do that right now. Half of them are boxed up only because I moved them out from this wall and moved them into my office, so that's going to change. But these are 4 new Beatle books that came in over the last several months, and I have not read these yet. And I do read or skim every single one before they're added to the library, and the Maslov Library, Beatle Library, and Record Library. First is Dylan, Lennon, Marx, and God by John Stewart. Not that John Stewart. Illuminating book, John Stewart invites readers to explore the work of Lennon and Dylan through the filter of 3 key themes: protest, history, and spirituality. Nice cover. There you go. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. God said to Abraham, "Kill me a son." So there's a lot of spirituality there. A Woman's History of the Beatles. And this is by Christine Feldman Barrett. Haven't read this. Quite like that simple cover. From fans to female Beatles-inspired bands, we see the power exchange of energy between the Beatles and the women who engaged with them internationally. Original interviews are interleaved with significant moments in Beatles history, giving a unique perspective into the way the band worked as cultural figureheads. In Your Mind, what a beautiful cover this is. I'm all in about Yoko, and I've read several biographies. The Infinite Worst of Yoko Ono by Madeline Baccaro. This is exactly how she looked as a young woman. Beautiful, beautiful illustration here. Yoko Ono's enchanting philosophy and uplifting positively are irresistible. She breaks down the boundaries between art and life. No other artist cares about us so much. Yoko shows us the truth with sincerity, grace, and humor. She enlightens us to our own superpowers, and so on and so forth. There you go. And lastly, Lifted, another of the series. They'd been done a whole series of books. Ringo, this is by Ringo Starr. He was the last drummer of the Beatles. Fab images and memories of my life with the Beatles from across the universe, and a whole series of photographs. Not just that this time, he's done collections of his own photographs, but there are a series of photographs with him and the Beatles that he curated here, and obviously he didn't take all these. That's from the Mad Day Out session in 68? I should know that. Probably the Hey Bulldog sessions, and so on. So you get the gist of this. Kind of a nice book, Lifted by Ringo Starr. All right, that's just a little palate cleanser before I grab some records. 5. One. 2. 3. 4. That's the Beatle wall. I think we deserve one there. And 5. I'm gonna get down. 5. All right. Procol Harum, Broken Barricades. What I like about this record, now, of course, we all know that the great Gary Brooker just died in the last several months. The great lead vocalist, the main nucleus of Procol Harum, the only remaining member, pretty much till the end. This is a fantastic record, opening up with Simple Sister, a great riff by Robin Trower. Believe this is the last album he was on. If I'm getting that wrong, I apologize. I don't always get these things right. But this is a lovely record. Also, it has Songs for a Dreamer, Luskus Delph, Broken Barricades, Simple Sister, Raw Track. This is the extended version. These only came out in the UK, and it's time for a really good reissue campaign on vinyl of these to come out in the States. Because when I remember when these came out, these were put out by Salvo, this collection of almost the entire catalog, and they emulated the expanded CDs of the time, where they had an extra LP of sometimes single mixes, sometimes raw tracks, works in progress, sometimes tracks without vocals, and instrumental tracks, raw tracks, etc. So it says here it hit number 41 on the UK charts, number 32 on the US charts. But Procol Harum, what a great band. Straddled between rock and pop and prog and symphonic rock, and just a great band. And this, if you're like the rocker side, even though there's some wonderful melody in here, also Keith Reid's lyrics. They're one of those few bands that had a dedicated lyricist who wrote pretty much most of the lyrics for the band. But if you like the more rockin' side, this is probably your best bet to get into Procol Harum, although there's still some melodic, wonderful, the organ, piano interplay, and guitar. Again, as much as I like them after this, Robin Trower added that little extra something, and I wish he had stayed with the band longer. And the great B.J. Wilson on drums. What a fantastic drummer. There you go. That's Keith Reid. Okay, the McCartney album I picked was probably my number one, my favorite McCartney album. And this is Ram. What a great record. What a great sounding record. Now, I always say, I think my number two favorite record was Wings Wildlife. It's one that a lot of people don't grab onto, but I'm not deflecting going into that because I know these albums really well. This album had actually a big hit with Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, which is a very Beatles type of number, but opening up with Too Many People. I think one of the tours I recall seeing Paul on, I think he opened up. Am I right there? Am I dreaming this? I know he did play Too Many People, and he did it really well. Love that. Three Legs, Ram On. The harmony vocals on Dear Boy are just sublime. They're just really fun and upbeat. But, and Smile Away, Heart of the Country, Monkberry Moon Delight, great rocker. It's kind of a raw album, yet it's produced, if that makes any sense. There's a great download you can get of East LA bands, not East LA bands, but LA indie bands. I'm thinking it's about 15 years ago or so, give or take, covering this entire album. And this is an album that sort of the newer indie independent bands discovered in the last 20 years, and they fell in love with it because it has a rawness to it, even though there's some great songwriting too. And of course, one can only imagine if you took half these songs and put them on what would have been maybe a subsequent Beatles record after Abbey Road, how great it could be with the contributions of John, George, and Ringo. But Ram, and of course, John Lennon doing the postcard in Imagine, the sort of ridiculing Paul on this. That was that big back and forth rivalry between John and Paul in the early days after the Beatle breakup. So, okay, I've showed this before on my channel, and it's one of the great albums that didn't get enough love when it came out. It had a big hit, but that's the Zombies Odyssey and Oracle. They spelled it wrong here. But fantastic record, beautiful. The Colin Blunstone's vocals and the harmonies on this record, Rod Argent's writing, is just gorgeous soundscapes, beautiful melodies. A Rose for Emily is on here. Is probably one of those beautiful pop songs of the late 60s. Beechwood Park as well. Every song on here is great. This is a full album that should have been bigger in its day, but it obviously now it's become this wonderful, beyond a cult classic, a wonderful classic. And of course, Time of the Season was the hit single off this. It was played in the States quite a bit. And unfortunately, they broke up, I think, as I recall, just prior to the release of this record. And this is a later reissue. I did not get this record when it came out. This is one I missed the boat on. I didn't get until well into the mid-70s, I believe. I did have the single Time of the Season, and I just love this record. I was fortunate enough to see them on one of the reunion tours the last few years, and I got the box set that came out in the last couple of years, which is really good. I got it autographed by all of the living members. I think it's all but one member autographed the cover of the box set. Do you want to see that, since I'm right here? There you go. And it's autographed by all of them. This is, if you can find this is really well done. It's got one bonus record, but it's got Oddities and Extras, R.I.P., Odyssey and Oracle, I Love You, She's Not There, The Zombies. The Zombies. Johnny Cash, Songs of Our Soul. This is an early copy I have, an early 6-eye mono. Now, this is one that I got from the Coleman collection. I'd never had this record before. I've heard it because I have the full CD box set, the entire Columbia Records Johnny Cash collection, so I know it. I don't remember what year this came out. This is early on, the very early 60s, but Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes opens up this track. The Man on the Hill. So it's Great Speckled Bird, a great classic song. Who wrote that? I should know that. There's a great album by Ian and Sylvia, the Canadian folk singer, called Great Speckled Bird. Johnny Cash wrote it. I did not know that. See, what's great about these whack-a-moles too, even if I don't know, I try to research it, and after the fact, after these recordings are finished, I'll go in and check them out and see something new. So, gotta love that. He wrote everything here except for Clementine and It Could Be You. So, it had some of Johnny Cash's early spirituality too, but also the real kind of Americana, country, Native American, old Apache squaw records. But what a beautiful cover. And that shirt, right? That shirt and guitar is just so fabulous. I love that. The style of country music. I did talk about the nudie suits on one of them, on one of my videos, I think, when we talked about style with Poetry on Plastic. There's a joint video somewhere on my joint videos. Check that out, about style and music and design, more dressing and dress for success. Okay, and lastly, this is a reissue on vinyl, because I don't know if it actually came out on vinyl, but I got these two companion volumes on CD when they came out, and that's XTC. And this is the later, where it's almost, I mean, this is a 2000 classic album, it says, newly cut from master tapes by Andy Partridge, Wasp Star. Now, of the two, let me just grab it while we're here. X. The other one is Apple Venus. These would have been an amazing double album. I mean, do we need them as a double album? No, but these are really good albums, and I think this is the one I like better. One of them, I think. See, this is where I'm confused, because I remember getting them around the same time and playing them, and they kind of run together for me. There's a lot of orchestration. There's a lot of string quartet type of thing, and this is when they were down pretty much to Colin Moulding and Andy Partridge. So they still consider themselves XTC, because it's not a purely an Andy Partridge solo collection. And I really like, as much as I like Andy's solo records, and there's some EPs coming out, and obviously he's curating and the whole reissue program. I think that there's surround versions and everything that Stephen Wilson has been doing. The producer, recording artist for Porcupine Tree, that's been working on all the prog reissues like Jethro Tull and Yes and King Crimson and XTC too, and he's done a great job on those. But these are really good records. it's a different sound, but obviously with the voices of these two artists, it's definitely XTC. But I think these stand alone, and I don't mean that as a negative thing. I think they stand out in a sort of a segmented thing, and possibly a fitting ending. Will ever be an XTC again? Who knows? And I'm not one that wants to bring all these bands back. I think, you know, artists have a moment, not that they need to stop making music. I mean, I think if the band splits up to get together again, very few come together and do it well. Some do occasionally, but I think XTC could maybe, but I like the way Andy Partridge has proceeded, and I think the legacy of XTC has risen because of these reissues and his music. And there was the documentary that came out a couple of years ago. I thought it could have been better, but it's worth seeing, worth checking out. So that's my latest whack-a-mole and Beatle book thing. So thank you very much. Mazzy loves you. Kidding.